Welcome back. Welcome back to another episode of Till the Wheels Fall Off. I'm Matt, and I'm flying solo dolo tonight. It's just me. There's nothing wrong. Everything is okay. Paige could not make this one. She will be back on Friday for her Paige's Perspective episode, and she will be back next week. Have no fear. Tonight was our recording night, and she couldn't make it. So I'm here. This is a topic that neither one of us wanted to miss. We didn't want to re-release an old episode. So we are doing the high agency thing and making do. And if you don't know what high agency is, that's exactly what we're going to discuss. It's a conversation, I think, that we will build upon over time. This is not one that you're going to want to miss just because it's me. And listen, full transparency, I recognize 100% that you don't come here every week for me. You come for Paige. She is the star of the show, and I love it that way. Don't dismiss this episode. Listen, the backup QB has got a good one for you. Just give me a shot, okay? Stick with me. I promise you, this is going to be worth your time. Let's get some things out of the way, and we'll do it really quickly. We've got a website, twfo.com, where you can support us. You can buy merch. You can sign up for our newsletter, read every week. You can find out where to leave us a review. You can buy our course, Independently Strong. Independently Strong is, I think, our best attempt at creating high agency people through a process that we call VEER. You can get 75% off that course using the code Wheelie75 at checkout. Most importantly, we've got a sponsor for today's show, SoberLink. Thank you so much to SoberLink. If you don't know what SoberLink is, think of them as like the world's most high-tech breathalyzer. Also think of them as the third party that can step in and be the bad guy so you don't have to be anymore. What I mean by that is I think there's two really good uses for SoberLink. There's probably more, but these are the two that I'm aware of. One, you're trying to rebuild accountability. You're someone like me who's had trouble with alcohol in the past, and you're serious this time. You want to prove to your spouse or partner that you're serious about not drinking. So what you do is you get a SoberLink. You voluntarily get a SoberLink. You can set up sober contacts, so you can have a therapist or a sponsor or your spouse or whoever, a judge. I don't know. Oh, he probably wouldn't want that. Attorney might be okay. He'd probably charge you for looking at it though. But either way, you can set up sober contacts so that every time that you blow into this thing and you schedule those times, it reports back whether or not you're sober. So if you're a spouse or partner, you don't have to beg someone or bait them into doing it or have the conversation. Why do you want me to do it? What, you don't trust me? It's like, dude, we agreed on this. You know, this is what you voluntarily did. It just makes things so much easier from that respect. And it's also accurate information. Like, they're not interested in getting anyone into trouble. They're interested in providing great data. And to prove that, they have a staff on standby 24/7 to review the data. So if you missed you missed one, you missed blowing in this thing, they will notify you. Hey, you missed one. You need to do it. They'll give you another shot. If you're wearing a heavy cologne, let's say you're just doused yourself in cologne and there's some alcohol in the cologne and you blow and something seems a little off, they can tell. They know, right? And they'll ask you to retest in a short period of time because that stuff wears off. Alcohol in your body does not. They know these things. You can't tamper with it either. They know if you're messing with it. It alerts them if you're messing with the thing. If you try to get crafty and crack it open and take something out of it, that gets alerted. I think the primary use that we generally see it is it's in custody agreements. And if I were in one, I would not have anything else. If I want to make damn sure that my kids are going somewhere where there is a sober adult, you can get these things written into your agreements. It is court admissible in all 50 states and in Canada, and it's trusted by over 200,000 people. It is literally the gold standard in court. It's got military grade facial recognition technology so that you can't spoof the thing. You can't have a friend blow in it or anything like that. They thought of everything. They have thought of everything. They've created the best device on the market for this purpose. You can get $50 off, which is better than nothing, right? Really generous of them to do. $50 off a device by going to soberlink.com/wheels. Again, that's soberlink.com/wheels to support the companies that support our show. We'd really appreciate it. Okay, on to high agency. I think it's the fastest I've ever done those. Paige would be proud. I'll have to let her know I did that in 5 minutes. Okay, what is high agency? So I guess I should start off by saying this episode in its entirety has been inspired by the work of a guy called George Mack. George Mack is, I guess I would call him like an author slash content creator. I've been reading George now for a couple of years. He's a guy from England, and he's got, man, he's quite a bit younger than me. I bet you he's like 30, maybe 31, but just wise beyond his years, and takes really difficult to understand concepts or things that you might think day to day, and he puts names to them, and he sort of crafts them in a way that makes them digestible or memorable, sort of like maxims, if you will. And he's been doing this work on high agency, and George kind of disappeared on us for like 6 or 7 months. And then this morning in my inbox, I get an email and it says George Mack. I'm like, oh my God, what is this? And I look at it, and it's his website, and it says highagency.com. And I would encourage every single one of you to go to highagency.com. They're not selling anything. It's an essay. It takes about 30 minutes to read. And if you read this thing and you really think about it, it will change your life. I read it this morning. I shared it in our community, and it's absolutely phenomenal. I mean, this is just, I think he might have been the one that said, you can judge how good an idea someone has based on how jealous you get whenever you hear the idea. And when I heard this, I was like, damn it, this is so good. So good. It's amazing. It's amazing the way he takes concepts out and distills them and creates, I guess, congruency to them, continuity to them, I should say. Really, really good. So you might be asking yourself, okay, what the hell is high agency? I don't even know what that means, Matt. What is agency? What is high agency? Okay, here's what high agency is. Is this thing recording? I think it's recording. Well, if it's not, just have to do it again. But if it is recording, then you'll have heard me do that because I'm not cutting it. We're just going to stick with it. We'll do it live. All right. What is high agency? High agency, difficult to define. I don't remember which. There was a Supreme Court justice that defined what pornography was, or he was tasked with doing that, and he had trouble. But what he said about it, I think we can all understand. He said, or maybe it was like something as vulgar. He said, "I'll know it when I see it. I'll know it when I see it." And I think that high agency very much falls into that category. What does it mean to be high agency? I've done my best at creating what I think a good definition would be. High agency is the decision to stop being acted upon by life and to start shaping it. Jim Carrey did a commencement speech at a college. Don't ask me which one. Don't remember. But on YouTube, if you search Jim Carrey commencement speech, you'll hear it. It's really, really, really good. Carrey's amazing. He's much more than a comedian. He's really, really deep, really good. But he said, life doesn't happen to you, life happens for you. And I think what he's doing there, talking to a room full of high agency people, is reminding them that you are never subject in life to the whims of the world, and that you always have the power to influence your outcomes. I think if we do anything here, that is really what we're trying to accomplish. That's what our course ultimately does, right? When, like, through our process, Veer, like, we validate people, of course. When you show up, you need to be heard, and you need to know that you're not crazy. That's the first thing we're going to do. And then we educate people, because we know that without some education, people are always going to keep digging for more, because understanding is sort of a way to control things. But then what we do is we help people, we empower people, and they recover. And that's the agency piece of this. Our goal is to create people that can go out and make changes on their own without needing to ask permission or waiting for the right time or feeling like they need to run it through someone else or they're going to upset someone else. People that take charge in their own lives, people that are lost. That's what our course really does. Like, we do teach you about, addiction. We teach you about boundaries and what's the difference between enabling versus supporting, versus challenging someone. Yeah, we do all that. But really what we're doing, what we're aiming to achieve, is to empower you to make a life of your own choosing that doesn't just rely on one outcome, which is your loved one getting sober. Like, if that happens, great, but be prepared for every outcome. And trust me when I say that you could be happy with any outcome. It's just a matter of how you approach it, how you look at things, and how much agency you have. So Mack defines high agency as a mindset where people do not see reality as fixed. They take initiative, they challenge norms, and they act, even when they don't have all the answers. And so at TUFO, we define it as the moment a person stops waiting for permission, rescue, or certainty and starts building a values-aligned life anyway. And by the way, if you're watching this on YouTube and you see me looking off here, that's because cameras here and screens here, I don't have anything to put my screen on. So it's here. And I'm sorry if that looks weird, but I'm doing my best here. Okay. Mack goes on to describe what he calls the high agency tricycle. So, 3 wheels on a tricycle, front, 2 back. Let's get through those first, because I think they kind of set the foundation for what someone is if they're high agency. And also we will talk about low agency, the opposite of high agency. And that is not a derogatory term. We are all wired by default to be low agency. And it's not necessarily a bad thing. What it means, I think, and let's back up a little bit. I think that this is the only real probability is that most people are low agency. Because if you think about it, the way that most systems in life, when I say systems, I mean our education system, I mean the system and the institution of marriage, I mean religion, I mean our professions, all of these things are in some sense creating obedience. I think that's the right word, obedience, right? Like you follow the norms, you follow the crowd, you fall in line, you behave. What high agency people do is oftentimes the opposite. So when I say low agency, what I mean is default. That's really what I mean is just default. I'm not saying like you're less than. Like I am low agency in a lot of ways. I seek to develop high agency, which is why this is so important, why I want to cover it, because it's something I've learned that's impacted me profoundly, it's impacted Paige profoundly. It will impact you profoundly as well. I promise you. So when I say low agency, I'm not like, it's not a bad thing, right? It's just, we want to be more high agency for sure, but it's also a spectrum, right? So there are some people that are very, very high agency and there are some people that are very, very low. I hope that you end up on the higher end of this thing by the end of this and after reading George's work, which is just so good. Again, so good. All right. The first wheel is clear thinking. You have to be able to think clearly and rationally. You see reality for what it is, not what you wish it were. This is one of the first things that we do with people. I think when they find our content, oftentimes we're talking about things in a way that most people don't talk about them because we're cutting through all the noise. And I think this is true with the way we discuss relationships here. This is true with the way we discuss addiction here, especially. There's so much information about addiction. There's so much out there about these different models of addiction and where it stems from and how it occurs and how do you cure it. And man, I think that the more you research about it, the more you would be led to think that it's just something completely out of your control and you should just like deal with it. It just like, it is what it is, because you can hear that it's from trauma. And so then if you try to understand someone's trauma, then you can cure them. But we know that that's not exactly true, because I know that many of you know exactly why your loved one does the things they do. You know their past, you know their parents, you know what they grew up in, and it hasn't gotten them any closer to getting sober just because you understand it, right? It's important for them to know, but not necessarily you. We've heard it's a chronic disease of the brain. And I don't wholly believe that. I don't believe it's fully a choice either. I think it's nuanced between all these different things. And it's not blasphemous to say that there's choice involved in addiction, because it's true. It's true. It's unfortunate that more people aren't having conversations like that. That they just use this disease thing like, oh, it's a disease and that's all there is to it. They have a disease. No, I refuse to believe that. If you disagree with me, read Mark Lewis, Biology of Desire. It's a great book about the disease model, like where it came from, where it stems from, why it's very heavily used in like 12-step communities, and why it's not exactly accurate. Really, really interesting take from a neuroscience perspective. But anyway, seeing things clearly for what they really are. This is relationships too. Your loved one isn't just addicted, they're also abusive. Yeah, we said it, and we'll keep saying it because it's true, right? It doesn't excuse abuse. It is what it is. Someone that chronically mistreats or devalues their partner is an abusive partner, period. Someone that financially abuses someone, that's abuse. Withholds money or spends all the money, takes control of the finances. Someone that is controlling in some way, shape, or form, sexually, That's abuse. It is what it is. I don't care if they're addicted or not. It's still abuse and it still affects you. And we're going to keep saying that. Always will. That is clear thinking. And how does that look in your life? Think about that though. In what ways are you not seeing things clearly? Now, people, the other wheel of this tricycle is a bias to action. And that's opposed to the opposite would be a bias to passivity, I suppose. And that's inaction. People with high agency, they don't wait to be ready. They just act. They just do things. Like they don't need to ruminate or to research things for a dozen years before they take action. They just act. They take action. They see things clearly. They take action. The last one is that they have high disagreeability. So they challenge systems, roles, beliefs, previously held and accepted notions of things. For you, I think it means what beliefs do you hold that keep you stuck, keep you small, if you will. That's the high agency tricycle. That's the first thing we're going to open up with to kind of set the stage. So what does high agency look like as far as TUFO is concerned? I think if there's one example that I was kind of going through these as I was prepping for the episode. I think the one that really sums it up is a partner that says, whether you change or not, I'm going to. I think that sums up high agency. What you end up doing is not contingent on other people. It's not contingent on what things in your life, like how things fall. You're going to do what you need to do regardless of the situation. And I think that is the essence of high agency. It's someone who stops asking their partner to do better, and they start to build a life where peace is non-negotiable, and you're living by your values. And if you're not congruent with my values, then you don't have a place in my life. And it's very simple to them. It's people that realize that recovery is just a vehicle for personal growth. It's not necessarily just about sobriety. That's just like the very beginning of it. It's really about being a better person. I think that's high agency thinking and recovery. But I think that when it comes to relationships, it's in reframing hope and understanding that your happiness as an individual is not contingent on your partner necessarily. Although we all want the happily ever after, the reality is that that's not going to be the case for everyone. In fact, it's not going to be the case for most people. And it's going to be, I guess, someone out of your control. And that sounds weird in this high agency discussion, but so much of what recovery requires is, I'm going to say that's my job as a recovered person, someone who has beat addiction. And I guess the pieces that come later are so contingent on that thing happening, rebuilding a marriage, rebuilding trust. Like, we will never teach you how to gaslight yourself to just to want what you can get, rather than teaching you to get what you want. Our goal is to always to teach you to get what you really want. Right. And maybe that just means that person in your life that's struggling, that's been abusive, that you've had a really tough time with, isn't going to be a part of your life in the future. And that sucks, but it's just the fact of the matter. And it's people who are able to look past that and say, okay, what would it take for me to be happy with or without this person? I think, we fall in love with each other in the beginning because of our individualism. It's because of who we are. It's because of our interests apart from them. It's because of our quirks and things like that. And I think as we grow older and we're together longer, we sort of lose that part of us. And I don't think we ever should. I think you should always hold on to some sense of being an individual, not totally, right? And you don't want to be so separate and individual that you're not really a unit, and you don't want to be so enmeshed that you can't function without one another, if that makes any sense at all. I think that there's a balance there. But anyway, when I say low agency here, it is not derogatory. Again, it's just baseline. But here are some signs that you could be low agency. And these might be familiar to you. 1, you're waiting for someone to tell you it's okay to take action. I cannot tell you how many times we have received messages from people asking, is this okay if I do this? I know why they're doing it, because they feel like they need permission, but you don't. You don't need permission. You're the adult, and we'll get to that shortly. Number 2, you feel stuck unless someone else agrees with your truth. That's a good one. You feel stuck unless someone else agrees with your truth. This is the importance of validation. I do think it's important. I think that apart from high agency, validation is just important. But if we're getting to like the brutal essence of it all, you don't necessarily need that. Your truth is yours. And you don't need me or anyone else to tell you that it's okay to feel the way you feel. The way you feel is the way you feel. Act accordingly. The third one, you over research, you over apologize, you overthink, and you never act. That's me in a nutshell for the most part. I've said it before, as much as I am the partner with the substance use disorder, with the addiction, I'll just say that it's easier. It's faster. Addiction. I ruminate on things so much. So yeah, I'm low agency too. It's okay. So let's get into this thought experiment. This one's really fun. This is what George presents in this essay. He says, this is how you sort of sum up what high agency is. If you were trapped in a third world jail cell, it's hard to say, third world jail cell. Why can't I do that? If you were trapped in a third world jail cell, who would you call? Let's just say that you're locked up in some third world country, wherever it is, doesn't matter. And you're thrown into a cell and you get one phone call to get someone to get you out. You get one phone call. Who are you calling? Who are you calling? The person that you would call to get you out of that jail cell is not the smartest person you know. It's not the nicest person you know. They're the most resourceful, the most unreasonable, and the most relentless. Those are high agency people, and we can learn something from them. We don't have to be the most ruthless person in the world, but we can all stand to benefit from being a bit more high agency, don't you think? Paige and I did this earlier. I said, who would you call? And she gave me the name of the person. And I started laughing as soon as she said it because it was the same person that I would call as well. Neither of us said that we would call the other, though. I was second on her list, which made me feel good, but she wasn't second on mine. We're different in that regard. But the most high agency person you know is the answer to that question. Who would you call if you were stuck in a third world jail cell? There are, in addition to those, the triangle, right? The three things that make up a high agency individual. There are 5 high agency beliefs that I have translated into TUFO terms that make sense for us. George's frame is beautiful and it's amazing, but I'm not here just to read what George wrote, even though we're kind of expounding upon what George wrote. We're talking about it in the context of TUFO. This is all based on George's work, but how does this apply to you, the listener? That's what matters here. So he identifies 5 mental beliefs that high agency people carry. And at TUFO, we've reframed them to meet the reality of listeners in recovery, post-betrayal, and relationship grief. Number 1, the number 1 belief of high agency people. I don't think these are ranked in order either. They're just 5. Number 1 is there's no unsolvable problem. Here's what George says. He says, if it doesn't break the laws of physics, it's solvable. If it doesn't break the laws of physics, it's solvable. Period. I like that. I really like that. That, I think if it does anything at all, it should give all of us hope. If it doesn't break the laws of the natural world, it is a solvable problem. Maybe solve looks different than what you think it would, but it is a solvable problem. Here's how I would reframe it for us, for our listeners. Leaving is not impossible. It's not impossible. It's tough, but it's not impossible. Healing isn't a fantasy, and you don't need permission to change your life. You don't. You don't need permission to change your life. This is your life. Make of it what you want. Here are some common low agency thoughts in retort to this. I can't leave right now. It's just not the right time. What does that even mean? It's not the right time. When is the right time? When would be the right time? When the kids are older? After they've been susceptible to another 10 years of this? When you're more financially stable? At which point, what? What will be different? You'll love them less? It'll be easier to get out on your own, but there's probably someone in your life you could call that would help you here. There's someone that you could reach out to. It's not impossible. Never said it was easy. Good God, it's not easy, but it is possible. The next one, there's no solution unless they change. That's the one I think that we started the show with. And it was, it's my back's hurting. And this was like the reframing hope bit. I think that so many people hold on to this idea that their happiness rests in this singular identity that is their loved one getting sober, taking accountability, being a better person, and only then can they be happy, because they're so fixated on this idea of what a family is and what a happy family unit is and what happiness looks like for them, because you've been shown it your whole life. Movies have shown you this. Romance novels have shown you this. Disney movies start us young on this, right? That's the dream. And anything less than that just won't do. I have to get that. No, you don't. No, you don't. There is a solution, even if they don't change. The third one is that it's just too complicated. I am too unique. You don't understand my situation, my past, what I've gone through, my unique medical concerns, my children, you name it. Yeah, I do. I do. I've seen it all and I've heard it all. I'm telling you that these are low agency beliefs, and that, remember what low agency is. It's just, this is default. This is our default, right? This is the easy thing that we do because it requires much less action, much less sacrifice. And it requires us to think clearly. It requires us, and schools don't teach us to do this. They don't teach us to act. They don't teach us to think clearly. They don't teach us to be disagreeable. They teach us to agree, to fall in line, to follow the herd, to rely on someone else, right? That's what we're taught, but that's not what we're going to do here. So if like George had this physics test prompt and he said, does this actually break the laws of physics? And if it's no, then that's a solvable problem. He goes on to talk about the Wright brothers in this. The Wright brothers, he considers the Wright brothers to be probably the most high agency people in history. And hear me out here and how this could apply to your life. What are the brothers' names? It was Orville and the other one. I just had this earlier. Doesn't matter. The other Orville, or the other Wright brother, right? Apparently had some accident. I think it was like a battering of some kind, but had really had himself like messed up and was bedridden for a very long time. And while he was in bed, he just could not stop thinking about why humans can't fly and birds can. I don't know if he saw a bird outside of his window or what happened, but just got obsessed with this idea that why can't people fly? Remember, this is a very long time ago when it was never really considered that people could. It was just, you just knew that people couldn't fly. I think George, even in his essay, references this New York Times article, I believe it was the Times, that said that humans won't be able to fly for somewhere between, I think, 1 million and 10 million years. Like, they were just convinced of it, and anything else was ridiculous. But it didn't break the laws of physics. They believed it was possible. And so the things that went into the first flight are phenomenal. The history of it is insane. I will never look at an airplane or step on one and take it for granted again. Not only in order to research this, do you have to essentially read very sparsely written books about the physics of a bird's wing and how it works. You have to then take those ideas and start to get creative and construct what a wing would look like that a human could use, right? Would it be self-propelled? Would it be propelled by some mechanism that we don't even know of yet, right? They didn't have engines that were light enough to fly back then. Where would you do this? And so in order to get this done, at this point, he gets his brother involved, Orville. That's the one, I know his name, Orville. And he gets him obsessed with the question too. And so we've got a partner in crime now. They live in Ohio, I think, at the time. And they were trying to figure out where the best place to fly a plane would be. And they knew it'd have to be somewhere where there's a lot of wind. Oh, excuse me. It's my bedtime, but we're going to ignore that. Somewhere where there's a lot of wind and somewhere that has a soft landing place. So it would be somewhere with sand, right? And so they start digging through meteorological data to figure out where the best place to fly would be. And remember, this is before the internet. So they're writing letters and they're picking up the phone and sending telegrams to weather stations all over the place to figure out the best suitable conditions for flying. And they find out that it's about 700 miles away in Kitty Hawk, North Carolina. The problem is you can't just fly there, right? They had to pack up all their stuff, put it on a train, and take it down there. And then while they're down there, getting absolutely ridiculed and made fun of and called loons and kooks and all kinds of these horrible names because they were doing something that people thought was just foolish and stupid, but they refused to believe otherwise, and long story short, they created the first airplane. And They proved it was possible. And now look at us, right? We're flying at supersonic speeds. We're going into outer space. These guys made that possible because they worked against the grain. They did not accept what others had told them about their dream. They were very disagreeable. They had a high bias toward action. And they had, I would say, they like to say they had clear thinking about it. I think they had clear thinking about where to start at the very least to get this done, what their dream would look like. And they put it into place. Using this idea, does this actually break the laws of physics? If the answer is no, then it's a solvable problem. Let's reverse engineer a story. So let's find someone in your life that you know. You don't have to know them, like really know them, but someone that maybe it's in our community, maybe another listener, maybe someone in your town or someone that you follow, an influencer or somebody that has done what you're scared to do. List out the ways how they made that happen, and then circle one step that you haven't taken yet. This can be true with recovery. If you're someone like me who's in recovery, and you want, as 12-step groups will say, if you want what I have, well, I guess what that means is if you aspire to have the life that I live today, what are some things that I've done that you haven't done? And circle those things. People hate doing this exercise because I think they feel as if it's supposed to induce shame, but it's not. It's supposed to highlight the deficiencies. That's simply it. Let's figure out what you haven't done yet. Let's figure out what you haven't tried yet. And let's really look at it and examine it, right? Let's say that in order to get sober, you haven't seen a therapist, or you haven't gone to treatment. You haven't tried a 12-step program. You haven't tried abstinence, or maybe you haven't tried medication-assisted treatment, whatever it might be. There's something you haven't tried. There's something you haven't done. It's a solvable problem. We know it's a solvable problem. You're not unique. You're not that special that it doesn't work for you. You just haven't tried everything yet. So figure it out. Figure out what you haven't tried and do that. If you know someone who's happy without their partner, they're happier than they've ever been because they left an abusive marriage. What did they do that you didn't do? Did they squirrel away money? Did they start random side businesses until they could get themselves on their feet? Did they just refuse to put their children in that situation again? Did they decide for themselves, it's better for my kids to have one healthy parent than it is to have no parents at all because I can't do this anymore and I'm going to take my own life if I stay here longer? What have they done that you haven't done? Circle that thing. Circle the step that you haven't taken yet. That's a big one. I did this earlier in thinking about career stuff. I've got the recovery stuff. Okay, I'm good there. But when it comes to career, there's a lot of things that I haven't done yet. And frankly, I haven't done them because I'm chicken shit. I'm scared. Transparently, I'm scared to do it. I'm scared to jeopardize my family's well-being for a dream that I want. I feel like could be selfish. But at the same time, I think that no matter what, Paige and I have always landed on our feet, and I'm just making excuses. So I'm going to make some big changes this year. Looking forward to it. So this is helping me too. Hope that you're learning along with me too. Here's another exercise. There's no way. George's frame. I love this. This is the second thought. There's no way. Remember, this is the 5 high agency beliefs. That's what we were doing before I went off on a tangent. Number 1 is that there's no such thing as an unsolvable problem. 2, there's no way, which means I think you could say there's no one way. There's no single path to success. Only what works for you. That is true. If one way, like let's say that when it comes to recovery, 12 steps, you've like really done it. You've earnestly sat down and worked through this crap and tried to develop a spiritual life of some kind and it didn't work. Okay, there's more ways to do it. Figure one out, find one, right? Make your own. I don't care. I don't think everything in the program is bad. I don't think everything is perfect either. Figure out what works for you and do it. There's no rule book that says you can't do that. There's not. Do what works for you when it comes to happiness in your life or your career or fitness or whatever. Like whatever diet works for you, that's the one. Stick with that one, right? That's the one that works. Do that. Just because it works for Joe doesn't necessarily mean it's going to work for Sarah. I think it's important to recognize that. And that's a high agency way of thinking. So I think when it comes to like recovery, even for spouses and partners, there's no one right way to recover. Staying and rebuilding or leaving and rebuilding. Other people's advice should not determine your path. What you want should determine your path. That is the high agency way of looking at this. And I think that some of the common low agency thoughts we get here that kind of signal that you might be stuck on this one is people asking, what's the right way to do this? Am I doing this right? Is this how this works? Or I wish someone would just tell me the exact steps. That's a message we get a lot. And frankly, that one kind of frustrates me. What we're trying to do more than anything is develop high agency people, like teach you how to be high agency. And when you ask, like when you send a DM, it's like, just tell me exactly what to do. Like, that's absurd. Not first of all, I wouldn't want the liability if something were to happen and you're like, well, he told me to, or she told me to. Two, you're not learning anything if you do that. You're not learning anything. And the only expert that can make a decision like that is you. It's you. You're the only person that is capable of making that decision. Anything that I say has no bearing because I don't know your life. I'm just some guy on the internet. Paige is just some hot chick on the internet. Like we don't know you, right? I don't know what your life is like, or this is your decision. Don't ask me. Only you can answer that question. Or this one. Oh, this one gets me too. Maybe I should wait and see what he does first. Well, let me know how that's working in a few decades. But no, don't do that. Don't wait and see what someone else will do. Because man, there's some people that will never do anything different. This is just who they are, and it's how they are, and they're totally cool with it that way. If you're not, do something about it. Okay, here's an exercise you can do. This is cool. Call it the Design My Way prompt. Let me ask you this question. If no one could judge you, what would healing look like? Let your answers be weird. Let your answers be beautiful. Let your answers be you. If no one could judge you, what would healing look like for you? What would it look like? Let's also do a values alignment test. List your top 3 values. And now ask yourself, where am I violating these just to appear normal or loyal? Let's say that your values are honesty, peace, and safety. In what ways are you violating those values just to appear normal or loyal? For no other reason. Like, these are things that you believe in more than anything in the world. This is how you make every decision in your life. And how are you violating them just to keep status quo so you don't rock the boat? All right, rule number 3. There are no adults. I think we talked about this recently in an episode, and I love this. I discovered this when I turned like 30. I always thought that there was some, as George puts it, some godlike class of adults that know what to do. And I think we've always been convinced of that. Like, there were people just that much smarter than we were, and they're out there and they know all the answers. And as it turns out, that's bullshit. That's not the case at all. I've gotten to know a lot of people who are incredibly intelligent. And what I've discovered is they are oftentimes just as unsure as anyone else around them. They have read more books about things. They've done more studies, but they have the same existential questions that you do. They have the same fears. They have knowledge does not necessarily make someone high agency. In fact, as we'll get into it later, just sitting there and constantly thinking about stuff can actually work against you. But there's no such thing as adults. There's no expert that is going to fix this. There's no life coach. There's no therapist. There's no counselor that is going to give you the magic solution. There are no adults. Guess who the adult is? You are. You're the adult. And that should be scary and exciting. Because if you're the adult and the adults don't exist, the ones that you think don't exist, then you get to make the decisions. You get to make the decisions. That should be incredibly empowering. There are no adults coming to save you. You are the adult. And I think that that's a beautiful thing. So my twofold reframe of that one is that therapists, coaches, or support groups can be really helpful, but they cannot live your life for you. You are the authority. You are the authority. And that is an amazing thing. Common low agency thoughts here when it comes to there are no adults. It's, I'll do it after I talk to my therapist. But if you know anything about therapists, they generally don't tell you what to do. Their job is to hold up a mirror and to ask you questions to help you arrive at conclusions. That's what good therapists do. They don't tell you what to do. I need more advice before I act. No, you don't. No, you don't. You've probably heard it all at this point. You're just sitting with it and I know this because I do this. Like I'm the king of this. I've had all the advice in the world, and most of the time it's the same advice. I just don't act on it because I'm scared. Yeah, and the last one, I'm scared I'll make the wrong decision. What if I do the wrong thing? What if I do the wrong thing? You might make a decision that some could say is wrong. But what does that even mean? You're the adult. You make the decisions, and that means that you get to make mistakes too, and you get to apologize for them if you do. But what you shouldn't do is just sit around waiting for other adults to make decisions for you, because they do not exist. They simply do not exist. I always thought that when I got older, I'd be surrounded by people that were just like smarter than me, because I always felt like growing up, everyone was so much smarter than me. And I was like 30 years old. I remember looking around the room and being like, where are the adults? Like, there's no way that I could be the adult. Like, we have a serious effing problem if I find myself to be the smartest guy in the room. Like, we're all in trouble. And that's what I've found in many situations. And that's a scary thought to me. But what it does tell me is that I am the adult now. I have to make these decisions. Don't put people on pedestals. Don't put us on pedestals. Don't put influencers on pedestals. They are no more adult than you are, right? These are flawed humans. These are just people like anyone else. We're deeply human, in fact. Careful with that one. The next one. Oh, hang on that. A fun exercise you can do to see where you're at on the belief there are no adults. List every place where you're waiting on someone else. So if you are waiting on someone to apologize before you act, if you are waiting on a therapist to bring it up before you act, if you are whatever it is, pick one to reclaim today. So if you're waiting on someone else to apologize, toss that one out. If you're waiting on a therapist, let's reclaim that. I don't need your apology in order to move on with my life and be happy. I don't need my therapist to tell me that I can leave before I can give myself permission to leave. I don't need to get a DWI from a quote unquote adult, from an officer, whoever, before I know I need to get help for myself. I don't need an adult to tell me this. I know, because I am the adult. So write this down and read it daily. I am the adult in my life. I don't need permission to protect myself. You don't need permission to set boundaries to protect yourself. You don't. You don't owe anyone an explanation. I had someone ask me a rather difficult question today, and I just didn't reply to it. I don't owe you a fucking apology, or I don't owe you an explanation, I should say. They weren't asking me to apologize. I don't owe you an explanation. Like, I'm an adult. I don't have to give you explanations. I know you want one, but what you really want is to talk me out of something. I don't owe you shit. I'm just not going to do it. No means no. End of story. I'm the adult now. It's a wonderful, liberating feeling. Oh, I saw this funny meme. This guy was like, the greatest part about being an adult is that no one can tell me that I can't eat 20 cookies. And the worst part about being an adult is that no one can stop me from eating 20 cookies. I tell my son all the time that my favorite part about being an adult is the fact that I can just eat as many cookies as I want whenever I want. And I think that that's still true. I think it's still probably my favorite thing about being an adult. Everything else is kind of boring, but that part's great. Okay, let's get through these. We're going to get through a couple more. This is going to be a 2-part episode. I want to bring Paige back, I think, for the rest of this, because we're 45 minutes in at this point. You guys do not want to hear me talk for 3 hours, nor do I want to talk for 3 hours. Let's get into number 4. There is no normal. No such thing as normal. Normal is a myth, and weird is where the magic is at. George, in his essay, talks about normal behavior, right? And what he essentially says is that normal behavior is perhaps the most forgettable thing in the entire world. Like, one of the biggest killers of high agency is to be normal, a desire to be normal, I should say, to fit in and to be liked by other people. And he has what's called the normal paradox. We hide our weirdness and act out normal behavior to be liked by the tribe, but the tribe forgets the normal behavior. Normal behavior costs nothing in the short term, but disappears in the memory abyss. Unconventional weird behavior costs a price in the short term, but the actions live on as a story, assets in the future. He gives the example, if you pay the bill for everyone at the table, the short-term reaction is shock and confusion. In the long term, it's everyone's favorite memory of you. If you travel across the world for a friend's birthday, the friend's initial reaction is you don't have to do that, but it's also the story they tell at your wedding. If you're 100% honest with your feedback on people's business ideas, the short-term reaction is anger. In the long term, you become one of the few people they can actually trust. Think about the stories they tell at people's funerals. They don't talk about your normal everyday behavior. They talk about the weird stuff. They talk about the quirky stuff. They talk about when you were being you, when you were acting abnormal, not just normal, abnormal. I think we love to think that fitting in is, I don't know what it is about fitting in that we think we, like, what do we want out of that? Right. Like if what we really want is to be seen, then being normal is not the way to do that. It would be the opposite of that. It would be acting differently, acting with your own agency, acting as in the way that you want to act, as opposed to the way that other people want you to act. This is true in relationships. This is true in friendships. This is true in your careers and in content creation and everything. And normal gets lost, right? It's only when you're yourself. And then we talk about authenticity wins. Like authenticity is one of the values I hold in the highest regard. Paige as well. And I think this isn't necessarily why, but this is a byproduct of doing that, is that you will attract more people that think the way you do. You will be remembered more memorably by people, more favorable by people when you're just yourself, when you're not thinking about norms. Normal, also remember, normal, quote unquote, normal, is also not a good thing for many people, listeners of our show. That's like factually not a good thing. Normal is what got you here. Why you're a listener. I'm glad you're a listener. I don't want you to go anywhere, but the reason you're a listener is because of normal, right? So like, what is normal? It's just another word for tolerating the unacceptable in general. Common low agency thoughts when it comes to normal is that everyone else's marriage looks okay, but does it? No, it's what they want you to see, the normal parts of it, right? But is it really? I don't think so. I don't want to be the one who breaks up the family, right? You don't want to be the one that rocks the boat. Well, I think that someone else already did that quite some time ago. You are simply getting yourself out of harm's way at this point. Or you can convince yourself that maybe you're expecting too much. Maybe I'm expecting too much. Maybe I should just be happy with what I have. Maybe I should play the gratitude game and tell myself it's okay that he comes in once a week and throws things around and he gets drunk in front of the children and scares them. I should be grateful because we have a roof over our heads. I guess you could do that, but that doesn't sound why, right? That's not any way to live. It's not any way to live. If what you're after is 2.5 kids, home in the suburbs, a white picket fence, and Facebook pictures that make it look like you're a happy family, then I guess you've qualified as normal, but I wouldn't say it's anything to be proud of. I would say that someone who acts in according to high agency principles is someone that we can all be proud of and someone we should aspire to be. So let's write a goodbye letter to normal. I wrote this earlier. Dear normal, you meant fitting in. You meant suffering silently. You meant betraying myself to belong, and I'm done. Write your own version of that. Write your own version of that. And create your new normal in one sentence. I want you to write this out. Actually do this. Even pause it before we go on, but I want you to write this sentence out. In my new life, I will no longer tolerate, I fiercely protect. Make sure it's not normal, whatever it is. There's only now. This is the last one we'll cover. There's only now. George's frame, he says that the past is gone. The future isn't real. The past really is, it only exists in the now as we remember it, but it's no longer here. The future is something that we project in the now, but it is not real. All we have is right now. This very moment is all we have. I would reframe this by saying you can't protect your children, your body, or your sanity tomorrow. You only have right now. There was this story. I don't know if you know who Kevin Smith is. He's a director. He's done films like Clerks, fun like indie type films. But anyway, I'm going to read this. This choked me up earlier. He says, this is from George's essay. He says, my father was a good guy. Not many good men in the world, but this was a good guy. He worked at a post office, canceling your stamps. What a soul-killing, horrible job that is. For years, just to pay for a family. Who knew if he even had dreams? I get a phone call at 6 a.m. from my brother. He tells me to get down to the hospital on Walnut Street. I get to the emergency room, I open the door, and the first thing I see is my mother, who looks more scared than I've ever seen a human being in my entire life. There was terror on her face. I've seen my mother cry in my lifetime, but this was different. This was like terror, fear, almost like there was a gun to her head. I looked to my brother, and he just had this expression where he gave me this slow nod, which meant my father was gone. Then my brother said something that probably defined my life. He died screaming. I couldn't believe it. I asked if it was a figure of speech, and he said no. He literally died screaming. You could see my brother was haunted by it. My father wasn't a soft man by any stretch of the imagination, and I'd never heard him get really loud. The notion of my father dying screaming changed my life. I realized that even a good man in this world who played the game straight, played by all the rules, did everything he was supposed to do, could end up dying screaming. At that point, I decided there's no point in not trying to accomplish every stupid dream I've got, even if it's dumb stuff. Chase it all and do it all because we're all going to die screaming, and you might as well enjoy it here. There's not even a guarantee that you won't die screaming. There's only now. What we've just discussed here, these 5 things are what George calls high agency software. And I think what's really interesting is that all of these things can be developed. We've talked about exercises within each that you can do. Oh, by the way, before I go on, the exercises for the now, for living in the now. 1 hour agency move. What can I do in the next hour that future me will thank me for? What can I do in the next hour that me tomorrow will thank me for? Exercise. It could be finding a therapist. It could be going to some kind of recovery meeting. It could be checking into treatment. It could be scheduling a consult with an attorney. It could be looking for an apartment. It could be any number of things that tomorrow you will thank you for. Just do it now. I've always had this thing I've done that drives Paige absolutely effing crazy. And if I know that something needs to be done, I'll just handle it right then and there without a second thought. I just do it right then and there. It can be 7 a.m. and suddenly I remember that, I don't know, that we're out of something. Like I'll run to the store and get it. It can be 10:30 at night and I'll remember that if I don't take something out of my gym bag right now, then I'm not going to do it at any other time because I'll just forget. I just do it right then and there. I don't count on tomorrow. I don't count on the future. I just do things right then and there. That's something I have always done that's benefited me a ton. When there's a problem, just handle it. Just do it right then. You don't have tomorrow. It's not promised. Past doesn't even, it exists in our memories, but what we really have is right now. Act now. Now is the most important time. It's all you have is to do something right this very moment, right now. So what are you postponing that you could honor today? Is it a boundary? Is it a movement? Is it a decision? Whatever it is, start right now. We'll get to this next section, and I think that we'll call it an evening because I really do want to loop Paige back in on this one. But this section sort of translates George Mack's theory into Tufo's mission, which is to help people stop reacting to addiction and start building a values-driven life, regardless of whatever their partner does. Regardless of whatever their partner does. So high agency here at Tufo, what this really means for you, the listener, is that you're no longer defined by anyone's addiction. You're defined by your own integrity. You stop making your emotional state dependent on anyone else's, and you get off the roller coaster and step into your own life. 3 core practices that we teach here. I think it took me a while to get through these, but I think maybe we'll build on them later, but I think this is a good place to start. 1 is radical clarity. No more vague complaints. Name it, define it, and write it down. 2, let's make micro moves. We've talked about gentle self-care. We've talked about weaning yourself into things, but we've also talked about making drastic changes. But I think micro moves is the way to go for most people. You don't need a 3-year plan. You need 1 bold step today. Something today. 3 is self-trust, and we will teach people to make decisions that are rooted in their values. This is what our course does. This is what our course does a great job of. It's not guilt. It's not fear. It's not what others will think. It's what you believe in. It's what's best for you in your life. Man, we've seen every outcome that you could possibly get. Like, talk to people who've taken the course, who've taken the course. A lot of them took a trip recently, and you'll see their posts and stuff. It's about community and whatnot. And what you're seeing there is someone who's developing agency, who's taking life into their own hands, and who sees for the first time that it's actually possible. They just acted when they didn't know what else to do. They just took action. They trusted a process. They took action, and they're seeing the benefits of it. you're no different. You just haven't taken action yet, which is sort of a plug for the course, but I wouldn't be saying it if I didn't believe in it. So yeah, get it, take it, try it out. So there are a multitude of traps that we can fall into. And I think that this is where I want to bring Paige in for next week. Low agency traps are really, really fun to uncover. And maybe this will be like a secondary, like a Monday episode or something that doesn't conflict with our episode for next week. I'm not sure how we're going to do this yet because I don't want to sit down on it for too long because these traps are really, really cool. Low agency traps are these self-created mental cages that we put ourselves in and we unconsciously live in them. And they have no locked doors, but we feel stuck because of fear, guilt, conditioning, or sometimes it's just like exhaustion. At Tufo, like our goal is to try and break through these things. We believe that you're in a trap that you haven't learned how to escape, but we'll show you the blueprint. We'll show you how to get out of these things. And so we're going to just, these are all from George's essay. The vague trap, we're going to talk about the midwit trap, which is probably my favorite. I could do a whole episode on that one. We're going to talk about the attachment trap. We're going to talk about the rumination trap, which is probably that's probably the number one for our listeners, the rumination trap, the what if trap, if you will, the overwhelm trap, I think. And yeah, that's it. And so we're going to talk about how to break through some of these things. So we've talked about what high agency thinking is. I've given you some exercises to do that will hopefully help you develop some of that, right? What's great about all of this is that this isn't something that you're just born with. I think some people probably have an easier time of it, but I think it's something that anyone can develop. It's something that I have developed in my life. I've watched Paige develop in her life. We've seen clients of the course develop in their life, listeners who don't take the course, just people who are really into the content, follow us, they journal, they use all the free resources. They develop this. This is what we're really after, to help you create a life of your own choosing, one that is not rooted in fear or what others might think or what's normal or anything. There are no unsolvable problems. There are no adults. There is no one way only. And there's only now. Did I say there's only no such thing as normal? If I didn't, I meant it. And then there's only now. Those are the 5 core beliefs that high agency people have that I want you to try to develop. I will put sort of the outline for this on our site soon. In the meantime, I really, really want you to go to highagency.com and read George's essay on it. I think what I've done here with Tufo's content will make more sense as I frame things in more of the context of what you're going through in your life. It's a concept I think that it seems complex, complicated, but it's not really. It's not. Truly, it's not. I think it's something that's tough to define, and so the discussions around it are rather abstract, but it's really, really meaningful, and I hope you get it, and I hope that you've gotten something from this. I hope I haven't just bored you to death. I promise you, the star of the show will be back next week. She will be here with bells on, smiling and giggling and changing people's lives, and I can't wait to sit alongside her again. I don't mind doing stuff on my own, but it's just a lot more fun with someone else whenever you've got someone to bounce ideas off of, and she's my best friend. She's my sweetheart. Like I love doing stuff with her. So she'll be back. But anyway, I appreciate you joining me here. Looking forward to part 2 of this thing. I cannot wait for that. Until next time, I'm Matt, and I'll see you.